So this might be the most positive news that we have heard on the WNBA front. So, if you guys don't know, obviously, the WNBPA have been, they've been doing what they've been doing. They've been going out of their way to basically be like, you know what, yeah, we'll strike. We don't need the league, yada, yada, yada. And now we're at the stage where they are, for at least the time being, talking a little bit more positively about things. Look, I'm not saying they're talking positive. I'm saying a little bit more positively, which is very, very much the truth. So you can see here, the Players Union, Nneka, Ogwumike said significant work remains for the season start on time, which, fair enough, yes. Like, they have, by the way, we haven't got to a CBA. We haven't got to a CBA being being signed. There is still significant work between a CBA being signed and a season starting on time. I think we all should be able to just kind of sit down and realize that there is big work between both of those things happening. That being said, she says here as well, she is confident games we played. I know our players 100% want to play this year. She said in a wide-ranging interview with Associated Press, we want a season. I have a feeling that meeting, we talked about it. I have a feeling that meeting with the players in AU, which is what I projected, but my guess is that those players said, look, get us to keep fighting, but we need to play. Like, we would rather sign, I'm guessing the players would say, get as much as you can, but we would rather sign the current deal and play than not play. That would be my assumption. Because I don't think they would play on last year's deal. I don't think they would play on a worse deal currently. But that would be my guess, is that most players with the average salary of $500,000, that most players would play on this salary, or on this current salary structure, rather than going on strike and risking everything. And I think that would be a fair stance to take, and that would be my guess. I could be wrong, but that would be my guess as to what is happening. It says here, the league and union are not close to key issues like revenue sharing in their effort to strike a new collective bargaining agreement. The clock is ticking. The season's supposed to be in May 8th, but an expansion draft, free agency, rookie draft needs to take place. It says once revenue sharing is solved, hopefully it will fall into place. It just depends. My guess is that they'll get gross revenue, but it'll be at a lower percentage than they want. And that would be my guess. I think they said, I reckon they'll get gross revenue at around 20. That would be my guess. Or they will get, because let's be real, what the league won't do is the league won't fully open the books in terms of net with the way all the spending is. And that would be my guess, is that they will get a certain percentage of gross revenue, but it's way less, kind of not way less than what they wanted, but in around the 20%. Because 20%, since they only own 42% of the league, 20% is just under 50% total. And I think that is something that you could maybe argue towards. And if you're the league, that is something that, if the league keeping 80% of gross revenue for operating costs, long term, if that's a percentage that kind of sticks, you will profit. The investors will profit. People involved will profit. And I think that might be the sweet spot. But I think if they're going to get growth, I think they might get gross revenue, but it could be a number that they don't necessarily want. That would be my guess. It says here, we made the point that once we nail this, everything else, the players want around 30% gross revenue, money generated before expenses. For the first year's last proposal and the league's last proposal, players receive 80% net revenue. Though that would be their take if profits after expenses are paid. Those expenses will include upgrade facilities, charter flights, 5-star hotels, medical services. And I understand the league's perspective, basically being like, you want us to simultaneously give you a bigger cut of the total, give a bigger percentage of the revenue, while also we have to pay 10 times extra. We have to pay 10 times extra to fund this league because you guys want luxury with everything, and then you want bigger salaries on top of that. My guess would be if they get the gross revenue split they want, they will then charter flights will be crossed out of the CBA. I think they'll say, yeah, we'll give you 30%. Okay, but charter flights are gone. All of these, so basically all these stuff that's going to cause this league to make a loss. Okay, yeah, that's gone. And I don't know what they'd say with that. But my guess is they're going to around 20. She reiterated several times they're waiting for a response from the league. I think that's really what the players are considering now is the lack of movement from the league side is disappointing. The league have this is the way negotiations go, unfortunately, and the league have every bit of leverage because unrivaled viewership indie shitter. Caitlin Clark showing up on an NBC broadcast has more relevance than the entirety of the season of Unrivaled. Outside of Philadelphia games, nobody gave a fuck about it. Nobody has given a fuck about Unrivaled. At the same time, Bree Jones, who is an all-star, has to get knee surgery, has just suffered a meniscus injury. That is even less. That is what you call it, even less leverage they have. So they don't have any leverage at all, if we're being honest. And the league are kind of realizing that. The league are kind of realizing that they have. Well, the players are realizing the league are stalling them. It's as simple as that. The league didn't feel pros was much different earlier. One, they didn't warrant a response. Obviously, yeah. The response was we're not responding. The response was give us something that's actually that we might actually consider. Then we'll respond. Like, obviously, 37 areas, yada yada. We know all that. Layout hurt both sides. Says here the long wait for response has been all bad. She and union leadership have had a chance to talk with the players. She was in Nashville. I actually felt like we've had these 6 weeks still waiting for proposals, giving us a gift of time. And in December after strike authorization vote, we were able to meet with players in Miami. Players voted to give the union the right to strike. Having the strike on the table is something we're very much aware of. Many more conversations happen. We're not going to say, hey, today is the day we'll strike. It is what we're demonstrating right now is negotiating good faith. So, at the end of the day, the fact she says she's confident games are going to be played, I would say, as much as people are saying they're not close, they're close. They are close. One way or another, they are close. It's a game of chicken. It's a game of chicken that the players can't afford to lose, but the owners can. I think that is just the unfortunate truth of it, is that the players cannot afford to lose this game of chicken. The owners don't want to lose this game of chicken, but they can afford to lose the game of chicken. However, the players absolutely cannot afford to lose this, just as a whole. Because as we've always stated, there are going to be a lot of players, a lot of players that will go, that will be going broke. That will be going broke and having to retire if the strike happens and the league goes. But the fact that Nneka, Stewie is like, we hope there's a season. The fact that we've got Nneka saying she's confident there's going to be a season is big. Because again, we have the Natasha Clouds of the world who aren't on the committee but like to speak for the players. Basically saying, we'll quit. We don't need this. We have Unrivaled. We're good. And I think the reality is that I would assume that I think they're more likely to sign the current offer than they are to strike. Than they are to miss more than 5 games. Because they could very well end up in a situation where the league starts in June, where they sign something in April, right before the draft, and everything's kind of quick, and the league, it doesn't start straight away, and I don't know. But my guess is that they're more, and I don't think either of those happen, by the way. I don't think the strike happens. I think there's probably a 5% chance of strike and a 5% chance that the league stalling them out and they end up just signing the current deal. My guess is that they're going to get a little bit more in the rev split, and there's a possibility that they lose some stuff in the rev split, or they continue with the net rev split and they get extra stuff, like housing comes back and maybe they get some extra stuff. Maybe they get guaranteed 5-star. Maybe to get guaranteed 5-star hotels on away trips. Like stuff like that. So either they're going to get slightly more in the rev split, or they get extra stuff like housing and a whole bunch of other things. Basically, they're going to be living in luxury. And there might be a thing that like by 2030, all teams must have a exclusive facility up to a certain standard. So it is an interesting one anyway. But the fact Nneka said that it's she's confident games will be played, and we know we 100% want to play. We want a season, whereas Tash Cloud is like, yeah, we don't need a season. We'll just stay here. Like, it's good to hear that. And my guess is that going to AU was very different in terms of what the players were saying than Unrivaled, because the Unrivaled players do have that safety net. Yes, they'll be making significantly less than Unrivaled, but they still have that safety net that they're not going to struggle to put food on the table.